Shalom, everybody. This is Stuart Dauermann from Interfaithfulness, where we're building bridges, where history builds walls. And I'm here today again to meet with my good friend, Dr. Bruce Stokes, as we have one of our table talks. So here's Dr. Stokes. How are you, Dr. Stokes?
I am doing very well. How are you?
I'm just great. I wanted to share something with you today that I shared recently with the board and the membership of my synagogue. It's a way of re-envisioning Messianic Jewish communities. And I'm pretty excited about it. I'm hoping that it's received well by people around our country and around the world. So let me show you a graphic for this, and we'll take a look at it. I want to get your opinion. So here we go. Re-envisioning Messianic Jewish communities, a star to guide us. And we begin with this triangle that reminds us that there are 3 points that are going to be the foundation of what we're looking at. The first is we see the 3 points being faith, finances, and folks. Those are 3 things that we need to pay attention to, I think, in my opinion, when we're forming Messianic Jewish community. Matters of faith, matters of finances, and matters of the folks we're dealing with. So let's look at faith first. I believe that we need to have an empowered and empowering Messianic Judaism, not a dependent Messianic Judaism, which means that we need to develop a laity that is rigorously informed about the faith that they claim, so that they don't just say when somebody asks them questions, well, I don't really know, you'll have to talk to my rabbi. Or in your case, I don't know, you'll have to talk to my pastor. But rather, we want a laity that is equipped, that is empowered by the right knowledge, the right practice, and of course, the right spirit. What do you think?
I think that's really important. You know, I've been working very hard and long trying to get a interactive congregation where everyone is informed and participating and interacting and not just sitting there watching the staff do something.
Yes, I agree. And then in the question of finances, I believe we need financially viable congregations. Yes, we can't always be in financial crisis, but we can't be financially driven either, which is, I mean, that every board meeting is about how are we going to meet expenses, how are we going to make more money, and where you don't think that the most successful congregation in town is the one with the biggest budget. Not necessarily, because what makes for a successful congregation is how well we serve and fulfill our mission. So I believe we should be mission driven and not financially driven. Have you experienced any of this in your career?
Yeah, I think there's almost a natural progression where people start with the mission and they're ready to go. They're bringing the finances as they can. And then all of a sudden they begin to focus more on the finances, and the finances begin to alter the mission, if not completely change it, seriously hinder it. So I think you're right on that.
Right. Okay. And what about the people? The people, I believe, and I know you do too, we believe in face-to-face familial spirituality, not audience spirituality. It's, as you said before, where people come and sit passively. Congregation is not an audience, it's a family. And we need to have structures that enable us to relate to each other as family. Any comments about that one?
Yeah, we call that life to life relational stuff, where we're in each other's lives, we're dependent on one another, we're interactive with one another. That's really critically important for a congregation to follow the biblical dynamics of what being the people of God is all about.
Yeah, I've seen church meetings where people will sing this old song, I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. And singing a song is one thing, But knowing the names of everybody else in the room and everyone else knowing your life, that's something else. We're not talking about songs and about sentiment. We're talking about on the ground relationship. So I think there are three structures that will help us to address these three needs. The first one, which you and I champion, is what we call chai groups, which would be a chavara or a home church meeting, depending upon the social context, which I like to define as familial groups of 6 to 15 people who eat together, meet together, learn together, and pray together, and grow together to better serve God's purposes in the world. Eating, meeting, learning, praying, growing, and then going to serve God's purposes in the world. And the reason I think it needs to be 6 to 15 people is that a smaller group exposes the introverts and they don't feel comfortable. But a larger group means that people are pushed to the periphery. What do you think about group size, Dr. Stokes?
Yeah, I think that we really need to keep it at a just beyond the household number, and so I think these numbers are pretty good. You get fewer than that, and you really don't have a group, right? And if you get more than that, what happens is you begin to get the people. You get that 80-20% going, where the 20% do the work and the 80% kind of watch or follow along. And we really don't want that. We want the energy and the dynamics to happen among all of the people that are in the group.
I don't think we want the 80% doing and 20% just watching. Ideally, you want everyone involved,
Yes.
Not so much only as worker bees, but that their needs are known, their lives are known, and they're not marginalized. So that's why we need these familial groups. Well, let's look at another characteristic, another structure. The first one was chavara, or home meetings. The second is congregational meetings that are larger than this. I call these the 5 C's meeting. It says in the New Testament, they continued daily in the temple and from house to house. The house-to-house meetings, of course, is our chavarot. But the daily in the temple, that reminds me of the 5 C's, which I enumerate here: connection to a wider tradition and community across time. We need to get together and really have a sense of being part of a historical and traditional stream, and catalysis, being mobilized and focused on what our particular communities are really about uniquely, and communal prayer and celebration and holy days and rites of passage. You need a larger meeting for that. And finally, the children need to see that the faith that their family espouses is not just something that occurs within their 4 walls, but there's a broader world out there that thinks the same way. How does that look to you, Doctor?
Yeah, I really think that helps with the formation of identity within the people of God. And you can't do that in the smaller part. They need to know that they're connected to a larger fictive kinship and a larger community of faith and a people of God that goes back historically and is going to go beyond them in the generations to come.
Right. And I got one more, and that's down here at the bottom, what we call body health maintenance teams. These are specialists and consultants, including rabbis or ministers, in your case, who monitor the apostling, profiting, evangelizing, shepherding, and teaching in the groups under the watch care of elders. There's a lot said there. I'll start at the end and go back to the beginning. Elders are the ones who really lead these home groups. And these are kind of parental figures. In my view, it could be men or women who have a certain parental gravitas that they keep a watch care over the group. And apostling, profiting, evangelizing, shepherding, and teaching, these are things we find in Ephesians 4. But instead of being offices and titles, these are functions that go on in the community. Apostling is people who have who embody a mature vision for what the group needs to be. Profiting are people who who sense intuitively where the group is at spiritually. Evangelizing, of course, is gospel magnets. Shepherding is people who are very keenly aware of who's present and who's absent. And teachers are people who take the knowledge of God, especially in Scripture, and can present it logically and compellingly and memorably. And then I think that these groups, these functions need to be monitored by specialists and consultants, kind of like a medical team that comes in to make sure that all the functions are going on in a balanced way, just the same way we might go to a doctor and get a checkup. How does that all shake down with you, Doctor?
Well, I really think that the benefit here is to see these things not as positions or titles, but as functions and as gifting and as part of a dynamic community that's operating. Because once people get titles and they get a job description, they kind of separate themselves, and we want that interaction to be constant.
Yes, we don't want it to be grandiose, and it's a trap. It gets to be kind of self-serving and self-exalting. So none of these things do we want to do. Well, I think that we've done everything we want to do for today here at Interfaithfulness, and if people want to get to us on our Chai project, they can just write us at chai@interfaithfulness.org, and we'll have more to say the next time. Anything you want to say before we go, Doctor?
No, I think this is a good overview of what we need to be doing, and we need to see more of it happening within our congregations and beyond our congregations.
I agree. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time here in Interfaithfulness, where we're building bridges, where history builds walls. Shalom, everyone.